Look at a standard black cotton t-shirt. From a strictly utilitarian perspective, it costs a few dollars to manufacture, stitch, and ship. Compare that functional garment to a visually similar piece from a Giorgio Armani runway. The raw materials might include slight synthetic blends or distinct stitching, but those marginal physical differences do not mathematically align with a retail price tag of nearly $300. Many businesses operate on a pricing mentality called cost plus. They calculate the expense of their raw materials, overhead, and labor, and then blindly attach an industry standard margin to arrive at a final retail number. The Armani shirt exposes the flaw in that logic. Cost plus pricing completely ignores the psychological premium. It fails to account for the status, exclusivity, and emotional weight that consumers willingly pay for. Within the entire marketing mix, price is the solitary element that actually generates revenue. Every other element, production, distribution, promotion, produces costs. Relying on static accounting formulas leaves massive margins on the table. To capture true value, a business must learn to systematically construct its pricing from first principles. This vertical axis maps the 3C's pricing model. At the bottom is the floor, the operational costs required to survive. The middle orienting point is dictated by competitors' prices. At the top is the ceiling, the customer's subjective assessment, dictating the market's maximum limit. Finding the optimal price requires manipulating these variables simultaneously, creating a dynamic equilibrium between what you spend, who you fight, and how buyers think. To manipulate the floor, a firm has to master its cost structure, separating the fixed overhead from the variable per unit expenses. This graph illustrates the experience curve. It tracks the production of a piece of hardware, like a tablet computer, to show how mass scale actively attacks the floor. As accumulated production doubles, operations become highly efficient. Workers learn shortcuts, supply chains smooth out, and procurement costs drop. A tablet that initially costs $100 to produce drops to $90, and then to $80. A market leader can use this lower threshold aggressively. By pricing their tablet at $90, they earn a profit while instantly starving out competitors who are stuck higher up the curve with older, more expensive production methods. Firms also lower the floor through target costing. Instead of building a product and calculating its cost, engineers start with the ideal retail price and design the product backward, ensuring the final materials fit the target margin. But engineering the floor downward carries severe risks. When Chrysler tried to squeeze additional margin out of the popular PT Cruiser, they replaced materials with cheaper plastics and inferior radios. The cost cuts were obvious, and perceived quality plummeted. A shrinking cost floor is a highly effective competitive weapon, provided the reductions remain completely invisible to the consumer's perception of value. Moving up the axis to the orienting point requires analyzing how competitors establish baseline expectations in the buyer's mind. In the European airline market, the discount carrier Ryanair effectively shattered those baseline expectations by rethinking the core transaction entirely. For legacy airlines, the orienting point is the price of a seat. Ryanair recognized that by charging $0 for a significant percentage of their seats, they could remove the competitor's primary point of comparison. They utilized extreme unbundling. The flight is free, but checked luggage is $9.50. A snack is $5.50. The bus into the city is $24. By charging for every ancillary block, a nominal fare builds into a net margin that is 3 times higher than their closest competitors. This physical unbundling mirrors the B2B digital models used in enterprise software today. Using a freemium cross-subsidy tactic, Red Hat gives away its core open-source Linux software for free. The company generates its billion-dollar revenue entirely by selling the essential stability updates and technical support required to run it securely. Orienting against modern competition means you can no longer just evaluate their sticker price. You have to map and attack their entire holistic revenue model. Finally, we reach the psychological limit, the ceiling. These two side-by-side graphs map the concept of price elasticity of demand. They measure exactly how purchase volume reacts when a price shifts. When demand is inelastic, as seen on the left, a firm can increase prices significantly and the overall quantity demanded barely drops. Because consumers rarely possess true objective valuation skills, the elasticity of this ceiling is highly subjective. Buyers rely heavily on internal reference frames to decide if a price is acceptable. They filter their decisions through a mental dashboard, constantly comparing your sticker price against what they remember as a typical price, the last price paid, or an abstract sense of a fair price. Marketers manipulate these references through price-quality inferences. With ego-sensitive products, an artificially high price is intentionally deployed to signal superiority. Brands like Ferrari deliberately curtail production. By combining artificial scarcity with a premium cost, they invert the standard logic of the demand curve. The product becomes highly desirable specifically because few can afford it. The price ceiling is rarely dictated by financial reality. It is determined by the marketer's ability to manipulate perception. When we stack these mechanics together, a complete, structural pricing strategy emerges. Blindly adding margins to raw materials is an accounting exercise, not a strategy. You secure your margins by utilizing scale and efficiency to continuously push your cost floor downward. You bypass direct competition by utilizing cross-subsidies and extreme unbundling to disorient the market. You elevate your price ceiling by utilizing scarcity and psychological reference frames to maximize perceived value. Mastering the dynamic tension between these three variables is the precise mechanism by which a modern firm stops merely taking prices and starts making them.